Hello and welcome to Connect. I'm your host, Randy Shabilo. On today's show, we'll have Kurt Perschke, the artist who created the RedBall Project, as well as Kevin Kitchen from the city of Saskatoon talking about the public art. As always, we'd like to connect with you. Follow us on Facebook at ConnectYXE, catch past interviews on YouTube, email us at connectyxe@gmail.com, or leave a message at 306-665-3796. Today we have Kurt Perschke. He's here from the United States, and he's brought with him the RedBall Project, the curator of this magnificent piece of work that's been all over the world and now in Saskatoon. Onward ho, he goes. Kurt, thanks for coming to the studio today.
Thanks for having me here, yeah.
I want to talk about you and how you came to be the artist you are, and we'll get into the RedBall in a minute. But
Yeah.
Who is Kurt and where is he from?
Well, I live now in Asheville, North Carolina, but I'm from Chicago originally and spent a long time in New York. But my background actually is as a sculptor, and I taught sculpture for a long time. And actually it was RedBall that pulled me away from teaching and took me on this little trip.
So you came up with the concept while you were teaching?
Yeah. I mean, as a sculptor, I was interested in, I was doing gallery work, mm-hmm. and I was interested in the idea of working in public space, working outside of the gallery, and working directly with people, and out in public, and so the project came out of my desire to try to work in public space and see what that was like. Yeah.
So there's one thing for people to come to a gallery and have a focused mission, if you will, that they're going to go and look at this art or something like that.
For sure, yeah.
But there's another dimension to what you're doing with the RedBall, because as we've seen the last few days, sometimes there's a bit of discovery with people just
well, there's definitely discovery. Yeah, I mean, part of what for me is interesting about working in public, and you definitely see with RedBall, is that when you're out in the, when anybody goes to a gallery museum, there's a certain, you have a certain sense how you're going to behave. You're inside something, but out on the street, you're out on the street, and so the opportunity is big and the risk is big, and as an artist, it's interesting to be able to work in that environment and just kind of honestly, you invite people in, but you see what happens. So for me, it's really important that the project doesn't dictate necessarily to people. It's more about an invitation and then see where that goes.
Yeah, I noticed that there's no parameters, if you will. It's a very inviting structure, and you can interact with it if you choose. But
right. Yeah.
The number of people that from small kids that bounce off of it and fall down to seniors that want to try and get each other in the photographs, it's quite amazing. If you had that knowledge going into it, or did you just kind of start with a smaller one, or has this always been the same size?
The piece actually was exactly like this from the beginning, and what I was interested in being able to do, and what's evolved with the piece is that it really moves through, like we're seeing here in Saskatoon, it really moves through a series of sites. So it's important to me that we don't do it just one place, because if we do it in only one place, then it looks like, or it feels maybe like public sculpture that sort of is there. And what I was really interested in is the idea of playing with the city. So, we come out, either myself or my assistant will come out to a city like here, and we find all the sites in advance. And the sites are actually what creates, essentially the performance. And those sites each have their own audience, they have their own communities. And so we build a little following as we go. And sometimes we get people that come to places in a town, maybe they haven't been before or they haven't been in a while.
And when you had the initial concept that you came up with, were there a number of different colors that you tried, or was it always
No, I drew it red right from the start.
Is that right?
Yeah, when I was coming up with the piece for an opportunity when I was teaching in St. Louis, and I drew it red, and actually I drew it and kind of laughed. I was working on this piece that was going to go under a bridge, and I wanted to show the weight of it. I wanted and I drew this huge ball underneath it, and laughed and kind of and then I showed it to the curator the next day, she laughed, and that was kind of the beginning of how it kicked off. But to answer your question, when it got time to take it from concept to build it, then it was like, okay, well, does it have to be red? Should it be something else? And that's when I sort of did chew on it. But the red's an energetic color. It's a playful color, and it's a very international color, And so it was really it's kind of what it always needed to be. If it was, I don't know, Artie Gray or something, it's not the same thing. You know what I mean? It needs to be very clear and very playful and kind of bold in what it is, because that's what the invitation of the piece is. I think part of why people, the things you've talked about, like people can come up and engage and don't feel like they have to be careful necessarily, right? They feel and part of that is the color. Part of it's the humor of it and the scale and all that, and part's the color. Just the sense that that it's right off the bat that it's clear that it's invitational and playful.
Yeah, and there's no fence, and I think that's what really is inviting. So when you did this the first time, where did you unveil it or
Sure, the very first site was in St. Louis, and it was a lot of fun, but I actually didn't. The very first time in St. Louis, I didn't get to tour it through. So they had commissioned me. They wanted to come up with a piece for a site, and that piece was RedBall. But then as soon as I sort of pitched it to them and they were excited and we were going to do it, I was like, actually, we should move it. Like, the whole point of the piece is that you can play with it and you can move it around. And they were like, oh, we don't just right here. And so I had to, in order to do it the way it's being done now and ever since, is I had to take it. I had actually took it to Barcelona on my own, and I shipped it out there, and I was in a little art residency, and I recruited some friends, and we just sort of did it on the street as street art around the city, mostly illegally. And then one of the sites we got permission, but it was the way it really needed to be, and that picked up press, and then it went from there.
A very organic type of thing.
Yeah. I mean, it was just to see, like, I think this is the way it's going to work, the way it's meant to be, and just kind of move around and be surprising and move through different places in a city. And so Barcelona was the first place where it really existed the way it's been ever since. And then that's, now we're 39 cities later.
With some of the cities that it has been in, this isn't just the United States and Europe. It's been
we did the London Olympics, and it's been to Asia and Taipei and Australia a couple times, and France and through Europe, and so it's definitely places I haven't gotten yet, but we've gotten around.
So for those who didn't make it down or haven't seen it, how would you describe it in terms of how big is it? What does it weigh? How does it get filled up?
Sure. We could throw some photos up, but I think there's two ways to think about it. So there's the object, which is like the ball, and the ball's 15 feet high, which is just under 5 meters for the metric, and it's about 250 pounds. But the project is actually the performance of moving it through the city and what happens with the communities and the people. So like that for me is the piece, and the object, the sculpture, is kind of like a way to get to that, kind of like a prop on stage. It's like, and that's for me why the piece is always constrained in the site. So we're always pinning it somewhere, we're always locking into the city, and we're always trying to be invitational with it. We're not putting it up on a mountain so you can just look at it. We want it to be out there with everyone.
I found that just interesting in terms of it being in Saskatoon here for a few days now and more to come. Just the laughter and the perplexity that you hear people talking about it when they first see it. What the hell is that?
Right, yeah, completely,
Do you have an intent for it to look like it's been thrown somewhere by Gulliver or some giant?
Definitely we get those comments. And I think a lot of times kids are like, "Why did that just rolled in there? Where did it come from?" And for me, all that is part of the piece. It's part of the imagination. It's part of like imagining, and also the movement where it's going to go next. And I think a lot of times for people engaged or kids or whatever, they start thinking, sometimes people come up and be like, why you haven't? Oh, where you got to go. There's this place 2 blocks over, and they'll start describing places in their own city they want to see it. And so for me, that's like a big moment because it means they're looking at it and just wanting to play with it and own it, which is a big thing when you consider what it would be like to stare at a painting and say, well, this is how I think you should paint it. But with a piece, it feels free, it feels open, and once they get how it's moving and that there are other places it could go, it raises that question. So we usually run for like this 7 days or 10 days. But there's always a last day, you really need to go to whatever.
So it's a bit of discovery, I guess, for not only residents, but tourists that come. We experienced that firsthand yesterday, actually. If you look to the future, do people invite you? Do you solicit different cities, or how does?
Yeah, it works in different ways, but usually it's invitational because, as you know, it's a bit to put on. So usually it's invitational, and actually the process of bringing it here was many years kind of in the making. So it can take some time to work through everything and make it happen. Yeah.
How long does it take to set up or to get established?
For each day, it's quick, so it's usually an hour, and to set up and to take down, unless we're doing something unusual or dangerous, which sometimes we've tried. I think it was in Montreal. We did the Buckminster Fuller, the dome, but we did a installation on the edge of it, and the guys, after they finished inflating it, they had to rappel down 300 feet. They were. I mean, I was not out there, but they were.
Yeah, but they were. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you could shed some light on the future of the RedBall, does it have any travel plans in the immediate future?
Knock on wood, we're hoping this winter to be in Asia, maybe in Hong Kong. So we'll see. There's an event coming up that we're hoping to do there.
Right on. I want to thank you and welcome you to Saskatoon. Thank
Thanks.
you for bringing that project. It's definitely stimulated conversation in the community, and we're so glad to see you here.
Thanks for having me.
Stay with us, folks. We're coming right back.